Australian Open is without one of its biggest stars this morning. I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but we can't really not talk about it. Nick Kygios shocking fans by announcing his withdrawal from the tournament.
We felt like we had a genuine chance of winning an event, winning a Grand Slam. I'm devastated, obviously. Going into this event as one of the favourites, it's brutal.
Today, reporter Christina Hearn is in Melbourne Park for us this morning. Chris, he is out due to a knee injury.
Yeah, that's right, Karl. I mean, he's been struggling with this for the last couple of weeks, but it was when he had a practice session with his doubles partner, Thanasi Kokkinakis, yesterday morning, and he just realised he would not be able to survive 7 matches over the next 2 weeks. So he pulled the pin on his Australian Open campaign, saying he was devastated. He has revealed that he's got a cyst in his knee that actually needs draining. He actually posted quite a graphic picture of that procedure, and his physiotherapist said he actually risks long-term damage if he did play in the Open. He will undergo surgery in Canberra next week. But of course, it is a huge blow for organisers and fans because Nick Kygios is such a big draw card.
I've been to Wimbledon, but I've never been to the Australian Open, so very exciting.
All the atmosphere and everything is very hectic and people are very smiling.
It's just brilliant. Best weather, wonderful.
Of course, this follows on from a host of other withdrawals, including our top women's seed, Australian top women's seed, Ajla Tomljanovic. It means all eyes, in an Aussie sense, is now on Alex de Minaur, and he will play his first round match against a qualifier on John Cain Arena tonight. Last night, veteran John Millman, he produced a typical fighting performance, winning a 5-set epic to book a second round showdown with Russian Daniil Medvedev. Now, look, it was pretty much bad news yesterday, of course, when the word came through that Nick Kygios was going to pull out. However, Australian Open organisers would have had to be over the moon with the attendance because 77,900 people streamed through the gates here on day one, and that beats the previous record by more than 5,000. Karl?
It's a good sign. Chris, thank you.
Authorities in Nepal have recovered the voice and flight data tracker from the doomed Yeti Airlines plane.
All right, well, let's go now to more on that Nick Kygios shock withdrawal from the Australian Open. The Aussie tennis star announcing the news at an impromptu press conference with his physiotherapist, Will Maher, citing a knee injury as the reason for his exit.
So Will joins us now from Melbourne. Will, good morning to you. How are you this morning?
Morning, Karl and Sarah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, pleasure. Look, it must have been pretty tough yesterday at the press conference. We saw how emotional Nick was and how hard it was for him. How was it for you to sit by?
Oh, it is tough to make these decisions for Nick because at the end of the day he wants to go out there and compete in front of his friends and family, and he's established himself now as, in his words, a second-week player at Grand Slams. So being out there on the court just to play one match isn't enough anymore for him. He wants to go the whole distance and play 7 matches. And we just didn't think he physically was up to doing that. So in the end, a very easy decision because we just go back, get everything right, and he'll be back better than ever at Indian Wells in March.
And Will, what can you tell us about the injury that's forced Nick out? We've seen the image of that gunk. What exactly is that?
It's part of the cyst that has formed inside his knee. A tear in the meniscus is very common, particularly in a sport where you've got to run and jump and pivot all the time, and normally not a huge issue, but sometimes a cyst can express itself from that tear and they can grow to be quite large. So that gel or the gunk that you see is the attempt to try and drain some of the cyst to relieve the pressure inside the knee so that he could compete here and then have the surgery. But unfortunately, even draining that amount of fluid still didn't help with the pain. So there was no choice but to rule him out and not risk making it any worse.
So he goes in for what surgery on Monday, or what's he going to actually get done, and what's the recovery like from your perspective?
It's just an arthroscopic debridement, so they go in there, Karl, and they just essentially take off the cyst and they clean up the small tear that's causing the cyst to come out. So it's a very small incision, essentially a small scraping of the meniscus, and then the recovery is anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks,
right.
Depending on how he responds. To be perfectly honest, he's actually had worse injuries in the past and come back bigger and better. So the prognosis is good. The concern is very low. It's just a matter of doing all the right things.
And how is Nick? I mean, you've got an insight into his state at the moment. Obviously, we know that he goes up and down. How's he actually feeling about this decision? We know how desperately he wanted to play.
He's actually a lot better now than he was about 48 hours ago, because the week leading up to this is complete agony for him, because he's torn between playing and not letting people down, but knowing deep down that it's going to be an absolute battle. So now the decision's been made and there's a plan and he knows what to do, and there's a structure in place. He's actually quite relieved. He knows there's only going to be a short amount of time out. He was planning on taking February off anyway, so he's only really missing this tournament. And I'm sure he'll be in contact with you, Karl, at some point. I've seen you slide into his DMs on different occasions. So
Karl might be able to
you'll
beat
reach
him
out
this
to him
time.
and just make sure he's okay on Monday.
No, I will be doing that. I do love him, and I know he carries the big burden, and especially at Australian Open time.
So much expectation. Yeah.
Just being his physio, though, when you saw him on the bike yesterday...
On the scooter.
On the scooter. You're like, dude,
get off the scooter.
Help me, help you.
Well, I think he was thinking of the knee in the sense that he was just trying to get home without putting extra pressure on it.
Very clever.
It was a 6-minute, 1 kilometre trip.
Yeah, I got you. Look, I'm on those
Better
things
than
all the
walking.
time without a helmet, and I have the whole family on it. So it's all good. Just before we go,
Supersized
one final question for you, because I noticed, the other thing I noticed at the press conference yesterday, Will, were your massive guns. What are you doing to kind of work out these days? Because look at that.
Look at Will. You got the serious face on there too.
Yeah, I've been called all sorts of things, from Rocky Balboa to all sorts of things. It's very kind of you to say that, Karl. You're welcome to come and train anytime. If you're in Canberra, drop into Accelerate Physio or come by anytime. I'm happy to write you up a program.
All right, I'll take you up on that. In fact, I think we might be down there Friday at Melbourne Park. So if you're there...
Training session.
Yeah, let's
awaits.
do it. Let's do it.
I'm in as well. I want those guns.
Thank you, Will.
We're in.
We appreciate it, mate.
Look forward to
Thanks,
it, Karl.
Look, it's
Thanks, Karl. Thanks, Sarah.
not
Thanks,
easy
mate.
for the entire team, Nick's family and everyone. I'm very much looking forward to all this, and they do a lot of work behind the scenes. So thank you.